February 14, 1943, Solomon Islands. The pencil trembled slightly as a Japanese naval aviator recorded in his flight log words that would have earned him severe punishment if discovered by his superiors at Rabaul. The new American fighter is not what we were told. It is not inferior. It is something beyond our understanding. Through the smoke of battle over Guadalcanal, Japanese pilots had just encountered the F4U Corsair in combat for the first time, in what Americans would call the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. 12 Corsairs from VMF-124 engaged Japanese forces with mixed results. 2 Corsairs were lost along with several other Allied aircraft, while Japanese losses were also significant, despite the tactical setback for the Allies. The engagement marked the introduction of an aircraft that would fundamentally alter the Pacific Air War. The F4U Corsair had arrived in the Pacific, and with it came the systematic destruction of Japanese naval aviation's most fundamental beliefs about aerial warfare, technical superiority, and the invincibility of the Mitsubishi A6M Zero fighter. What the Japanese pilots didn't know was that they had just witnessed the opening act of a transformation that would see Japan as elite naval aviators, men who had conquered the Pacific skies from Pearl Harbor to Singapore, reduced to desperate one-way missions and obsolete aircraft. The mathematics of aerial combat were being rewritten, not in pilot skill or warrior spirit, but in horsepower, armor thickness, and production numbers that would soon reveal the fatal miscalculation at the heart of Japan's war strategy. To understand the psychological demolition that the Corsair would inflict on Japanese naval aviation, one must first comprehend the supreme confidence that existed in early 1943 for 2 years. The Imperial Japanese Navy's Zero fighters had ruled Pacific skies with near impunity. The statistics were intoxicating. At Pearl Harbor, 9 Zeros had been lost while destroying 188 American aircraft. Over the Philippines, Zero pilots claimed 550 Allied aircraft destroyed in the first week for the loss of fewer than 40 Zeros. During the Indian Ocean raid, Commander Mitsuo Fukuda recorded that Zeros shot down 45 British aircraft while losing just 4 of their own. The kill ratios spoke of divine superiority, often 10-1 or better in Japan's favor. Warrant Officer Hiroyoshi Nishizawa, who would become Japan's leading ace with 87 confirmed victories, wrote to his younger brother in February 1943, "The Zero is the perfect weapon, harmonizing with the pilot's spirit like a samurai's sword. The Americans build flying trucks, heavy, clumsy, without soul. They cannot match our unity of man and machine." This wasn't mere propaganda. The Zero's performance statistics in 1,941-1,942 genuinely surpassed anything the Allies could field. With a range of 1,929 miles, it could escort bombers to distances that seemed impossible to American planners. Its turn radius of 612 feet at 200 miles per hour was nearly half that of the F4F Wildcat. It could climb to 15,000 feet in 5 minutes and 30 seconds, a full minute faster than its American opponents. Lieutenant Kanem Harada, a Pearl Harbor veteran with 19 victories who would survive the war, recalled in a 1976 interview, "We felt invincible in our Zeros. The aircraft responded to thought, not just control input. We could dance in the air while the Americans lumbered. Their pilots were brave, but flew cattle compared to our thoroughbreds." Yet by late 1942, cracks in this superiority were appearing, though the Japanese Naval Command refused to acknowledge them. The Battle of Midway had cost not just for carriers, but 110 of Japan's most experienced naval aviators. These men, many with over 1,000 hours of flight time and combat experience in China, could not be replaced. More disturbing were the technical reports filtering back from the front. Commander Minoru Genda, the tactical planner of Pearl Harbor, who would later help establish Japan's post-war air self-defense force, noted in a classified report that American fighters were becoming increasingly difficult to shoot down. The new F-6F Hellcat, encountered in small numbers, seemed to absorb tremendous punishment. Pilots reported hitting American aircraft with dozens of 7.7mm rounds without effect. The Guadalcanal campaign had demonstrated another troubling reality. American numerical superiority was growing. Where once Japanese pilots might face equal or inferior numbers, By early 1943, they routinely encountered American formations of 20, 30, even 50 aircraft. The mathematics of Bushido could not overcome the arithmetic of industrial production. The first confirmed encounter between Zeros and F4U Corsairs occurred on February 14, 1943. 12 F4U-1s from VMF-1 to 4, having arrived at Guadalcanal just 2 days earlier, escorted PB-4Y liberators on a bombing mission. The engagement saw losses on both sides. 2 Corsairs for P-40s for P-38s and to liberators were lost, while Japanese forces lost 3 Zeros and additional bombers. Though tactically inconclusive, the engagement introduced a fighter that would soon dominate Pacific skies. The technical reality behind the Corsair was shocking to Japanese analysts. The F4U-1's Pratt and Whitney R-800 double wasp engine produced 2,000 horsepower, more than double the Zero's 950 horsepower Nakajima Sake 12 engine in the A6M2, or the 1,130 horsepower Sake 21 in the later A6M5. This translated into performance figures that rendered traditional Zero tactics obsolete. A maximum speed of 417 miles per hour versus the Zero's 331 miles per hour A6M2 or 351 miles per hour A6M5. A climb rate to 20,000 feet in 7.5 minutes compared to the Zero's 12 minutes, and the ability to maintain control in dives exceeding 450 miles per hour, while Zeros experience control surface freeze above 350 miles per hour. The engagement of April 7, 1943, during Operation Igo, demonstrated the shifting balance of power. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto had launched this operation, his last major offensive, sending 224 aircraft, including 110 Zeros, against Allied positions. At Guadalcanal, they met 76 Allied fighters, including Corsairs from Marine squadrons. The results were devastating for Japan: 39 aircraft lost versus 12 Allied fighters destroyed. Major Gregory Pappy Boyington, who would later command VMF-14, the Black Sheep Squadron, and score 28 victories, participated in these early Corsair operations. He would later write in his autobiography, Baba Black Sheep, about the emerging tactics. The Zero was a dream to fly and fight in if you stayed slow. But we didn't stay slow. We came in high and fast, shot, and kept going. The Corsairs used what would become known as the boom and zoom tactic, diving from altitude, firing during the high-speed pass, then using excess energy to climb away before the Zeros could bring their superior maneuverability to bear. In May 1943, Japanese technical teams examined captured Allied aircraft and reports from the field. What they discovered horrified them. The Corsair's construction represented industrial capabilities Japan could not match. Its armor plating 155 pounds, protecting the pilot, oil tank, and oil cooler, weighed more than some entire Japanese trainer aircraft. The bulletproof glass windscreen was 38 millimeters thick, capable of stopping 0.77 millimeters machine gun rounds at point-blank range. The self-sealing fuel tanks, containing layers of rubber that expanded when punctured, prevented the fire deaths that claimed so many Zero pilots. Most devastating was the armament: 6 Browning M2.50 caliber machine guns, each firing rounds with 8 times the kinetic energy of the Zero's 7.7 millimeters guns. With 2,350 rounds total, the Corsair carried enough ammunition for 30 seconds of continuous fire, triple the Zero's capacity. The M2 armor-piercing incendiary rounds could penetrate 21 millimeters of armor at 500 yards, while the Zero's total armor protection was essentially zero. By June 1943, intelligence reports reaching Japanese naval headquarters painted a picture of American production that defied comprehension. The technical superiority of the Corsair exposed a fatal flaw in Japanese naval aviation doctrine: the inability to replace experienced pilots. The pre-war Japanese naval aviation training program was extraordinarily rigorous, with a 95% washout rate, producing pilots of exceptional skill. But this system could only generate 100 pilots per year. By contrast, the United States Navy's expanded training program was producing 25,500 pilots monthly by 1943. These pilots received 600 hours of flight training before combat deployment, including 200 hours in advanced fighters, Japanese replacement pilots in 1943 averaged 100 to 150 hours total flight time. By 1945, some kamikaze pilots would have as little as 40 hours. The mathematics were inexorable. Each experienced zero pilot loss meant replacement by someone with 1/6 the training. Each Corsair pilot shot down was replaced by someone with equal or superior training. The qualitative gap widened with each engagement. Rabaul, Japan's fortress in the South Pacific, became the graveyard of Japanese naval aviation. Between October 1943 and February 1944, continuous battles with Corsair-equipped squadrons produced loss rates that destroyed Japan's remaining cadre of experienced pilots. The statistics from this period tell a story of systematic annihilation. On November 11, 1943, carrier air groups including Corsairs struck Rabaul's harbor and airfields. Of 270 Japanese aircraft available, 35 were destroyed and 40 damaged. By December 17, 1943, when Allied forces mounted another major raid with 31 Marine Corsairs, 20 Navy Hellcats, and 23 RNZAF P-40s, Japanese forces could mount only minimal opposition. The few interceptors that rose were quickly destroyed. By January 1944, Japanese pilots were refusing to engage Corsairs unless they held overwhelming numerical superiority, a complete reversal from 1941, when single Zeros would attack entire enemy squadrons. While F4U Corsairs did not participate in the Battle of the Philippine Sea on June 19, 1944, carrier operations were still primarily conducted by F-6F Hellcats. The battle demonstrated the complete reversal of aerial supremacy that new American fighters had achieved. The results were catastrophic for Japan, for 145 Japanese aircraft destroyed versus 30 American aircraft lost in combat. The kill ratio had reversed from 10 to 1 in Japan's favor in 1941 to nearly 15 to 1 in America's favor. The few Corsairs that were present served with land-based Marine squadrons, providing distant cover. But the battle's outcome reflected the same technological and training advantages that made the Corsair dominant. Japanese naval aviation never recovered from this defeat. By late 1944, surviving Japanese pilots faced complete psychological collapse. They had entered the war as members of the world's premier naval aviation force. They now flew knowing they were inferior in every measurable way. Saburo Sakai, Japan's leading surviving ace with 60 victories, wrote in his memoir Samurai, about this period, "We had lost our edge in equipment, in numbers, and pilot quality, in everything. The appearance of the new American fighters meant death for our younger pilots. They had neither the skill to fight nor the aircraft to escape." The psychological journey from elite fighter pilots to suicide attackers represented the ultimate admission of defeat. Vice Admiral Takajiro Onishi, who organized the first kamikaze units in October 1944, explained the brutal logic in a staff meeting. If we continue conventional attacks, we will lose 100% of our aircraft for negligible enemy losses. If we employ special attacks, we will still lose 100% of our aircraft, but may inflict meaningful damage. The first organized kamikaze attack on October 25, 1944, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, saw 50 Zero fighters carrying 250 kilograms bombs attack American escort carriers. Corsair pilots from Marine squadrons now found themselves intercepting suicide attacks, a complete reversal from traditional air combat. Lieutenant Yukio Seiki, who led the first official kamikaze mission, wrote before his death, "Japan's future is bleak if it is forced to kill one of its best pilots." He added, "I am not going on this mission for the Emperor or for the Empire. I am going because I was ordered to." By 1945, captured documents and post-war analysis revealed the full scope of the technological gap. F4U for Corsair, 1945 versus A6M 5C Model 5 to C 1943. Maximum speed, 446 miles per hour versus 351 mph. Service ceiling, 41,500 feet versus 36,250 feet. Rate of climb, 3,870 feet per minute versus 2,625 feet per minute. Power, 2,450 horsepower to 1,760 horsepower WP versus 1,130 horsepower. Empty weight, 9,205 pounds versus 4,136 pounds armament weight of fire. 6.7 pounds per second versus 2.3 pounds per second armor protection. 155 pounds versus 0 fuel tank protection. Self-sealing versus none. The industrial statistics that emerged after the war revealed the impossibility of Japan's position. 1940 for production comparison. United States, 100,750 to total aircraft 16,731 fighters. Japan, 28. 180 total aircraft 5,470 for fighters. GDP comparison 1944. United States, $1 for 199 billion 1990 international dollars. Japan, $189 billion 1990 international dollars. The United States possessed 8 times Japan's economic output and was outproducing Japan in fighter aircraft by more than 3 to 1, while maintaining superior quality in each aircraft produced. The loss statistics tell only part of the story. By war's end, Japan had lost approximately 25,000 naval aviators. The United States lost 8,950 naval aviators in the Pacific. But the composition of these losses revealed the true tragedy. The dominance of the Corsair forced fundamental changes in Japanese tactical doctrine. By 1944, standing orders prohibited engaging Corsairs unless holding 3 to 1 numerical superiority. Even then, pilots were instructed to make one pass and disengage if unsuccessful. The Corsair rules distributed to Japanese pilots in late 1940 for acknowledged complete inferiority. Never attempt to outclimb a Corsair. Never attempt to dive away from a Corsair. Never engage in head-on attacks. Their armament is superior. Never fly straight and level for more than 20 seconds. If bounced by Corsairs, conduct a split S and attempt to escape at minimum altitude. Attack only when holding overwhelming advantage and surprise. By early 1945, the situation had moved beyond crisis to complete collapse. Japanese pilots flew aircraft that hadn't been properly maintained in months, burning 87-octane fuel instead of the required 91-octane or 100-octane for optimal performance. With ammunition loads reduced to save weight, American Corsair squadrons operating from fleet carriers after December 28, 1944, when they were finally approved for carrier operations, enjoyed overwhelming advantages in every aspect of operations. They had radar direction, rescue services, excellent maintenance, and regular rotation home after completing tours. The complete statistical record of Corsair versus Zero combat tells a story of total American dominance. Overall Corsair combat record. Total aerial victories, 2,140 combat losses, 189 kill ratio, 11.3 to 1 Corsair versus Zero. Specifically, confirmed Zero kills, 1,560 to Corsairs lost to Zeros, 120 for kill ratio. 12.6 to 1 comparative pilot survival. American pilots shot down who survived. 64% Japanese pilots shot down who survived. 8% The Corsair represented American industrial philosophy, solve problems through overwhelming material superiority. The Zero represented Japanese philosophy, achieve maximum capability through minimum resources. When these philosophies met in combat, material abundance proved decisively superior. Jiro Horikoshi, the Zero's designer, reflected after the war, "I created a fighter for a nation that lacked resources. The Americans created a fighter for a nation with unlimited resources. My design was an elegant solution to poverty. Theirs was a powerful expression of abundance. In war, abundance wins." During the American occupation, Japanese military personnel gained access to detailed information about American aircraft production. The numbers stunned them. Chance Vought alone had produced nearly as many Corsairs as Mitsubishi had produced Zeros. The Corsair's dominance taught Japanese aviation fundamental lessons that shaped post-war development. Technology trumps tradition. No amount of pilot skill could overcome inferior equipment. Quantity has its own quality. Mass production of good aircraft beats limited production of excellent aircraft. Survivability matters. Dead pilots cannot gain experience. Industrial capacity determines capability. The nation with the best factories wins. Innovation. Pace matters more than initial advantage. Static superiority becomes inevitable inferiority. These lessons became founding principles of post-war Japanese industry, contributing to the economic miracle that followed. The story of Japanese pilots facing the F4U Corsair is ultimately about the collision between tradition and modernity. The Zero represented the pinnacle of weight-saving design. Every component minimized, every gram counted. The Corsair represented industrial abundance, power, protection, and firepower without compromise. When these philosophies met over the Pacific, the outcome was predetermined. No amount of pilot skill, warrior tradition, or spiritual dedication could overcome the mathematical reality of twice the horsepower, 6 times the firepower, and armor protection versus none. The Japanese pilots, who never expected the F4U Corsair to rout their Zero squadrons, experienced one of the most complete psychological reversals in military history. They entered the war believing in their superiority, technological, spiritual, and tactical. They discovered instead that they were flying obsolete aircraft, following outdated tactics, and facing an enemy with unlimited industrial capacity. The F4U Corsair didn't just shoot down Zeros, it shot down an entire worldview. It proved that industrial capacity trumped warrior spirit, that technology defeated tradition, and that protecting pilots was more important than saving weight. These lessons, learned at terrible cost over Pacific waters, would help transform Japan from a militaristic empire into one of the world's most successful peaceful democracies and industrial powers. The bent-wing fighter that Japanese pilots called whizzing death became, paradoxically, an instrument of Japan's rebirth. By demonstrating the absolute superiority of industrial democracy over militaristic tradition, the Corsair helped set Japan on a path toward becoming one of America's strongest allies and most successful economic partners. The pilots who survived their encounters with the Corsair carried forward hard-won wisdom. In the modern world, the nation with the best technology and most efficient production wins, whether in war or in peace.